Welcome to AAUW Conversation and Connection. This is our 12th show, believe it or not. I'm so excited, an even dozen today. We are American Association of University Women. We're a service club here in Auburn, California. We promote equity through education, primarily education, a lot of advocacy situations as well. We are best known for the Trivia Bee, which is our major fundraiser here in Auburn, where we get community members to be on teams and go against each other. It's quite fun. I take this opportunity to thank Phil, but he kind of messed up this morning, so I'm not going to thank him today. And I usually thank Susan Rushton because she's the one that did give us the idea of doing this program on ACTV here in Auburn. And I'm grateful for her to give us that idea and we could run with it. So, but it's happy fall. I love fall. It's Halloween coming up. But most importantly, and you all have been watching, you know what I'm going to say next. Fall is pretty good. Our 49ers are doing so good with Brock Purdy. So I just have to pull that in because I can. And I love him. So my guest today is Julann Brown. And I'd like to welcome you.
Thank you.
She is chairperson of not a new committee. It's a relatively new committee on diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's kind of it's not new. What it means is treat people equally. That's really what it means. But it has grown to be a little more precise, a little more political, a little more misunderstood, if you will. And I'm going to let you kind of take the role. But before we get started,
yes,
I would like to hear your story with AAUW, how you got involved, what your role is now, what it has been. So let's hear about you.
Well, as you may or may not know, I had been serving as an elected official for the Auburn Union School District Board since 2014. And I during that time, you can get in a little bit of a bubble. I'm very dedicated to education. Equity is a big issue for me in education. And I was exploring and knew that I wanted to be involved in the community a little bit more, just to kind of come out of the bubble that you can get in,
that you're comfortable in.
Get entrenched in,
yeah.
I'd say. Comfortable and entrenched
yeah.
the same. Okay, so I was feeling that it was important to come out into the community and started looking at different community groups that I could be involved in, and was aware of the AAUW because of all the wonderful work they've done with our school district, with
yes.
Tech Trek.
Yes.
I had served briefly with our one and only Sandra Scott on the board. So I just was aware of the organization. So I looked into it and saw that their main goal is equity, gender equity. Mm-hmm. And also being part of the school board, I have noticed in the number of years that the idea of gender and gender equity has expanded. And it's just not around women and girls anymore. Gender has a bigger definition, and we're seeing it more and more with our young people. So I just thought it was really important to, I love the goals of this group and the fights that we are, still are doing on behalf of women, mm-hmm. and realize that we also need to expand that fight. And so that is, one of the reasons I joined the organization, and because of the focus on education and equity. So that's how I came to the group.
That's great. And how long have you been here? Do you remember what year you joined?
Oh, it was during COVID. I want to say, but well into it.
Like 2019?
So 2021?
Okay.
2021.
Okay, couple years then.
Yeah.
Well, I have to applaud you because you jumped in. You are now not only our equity chairman, I'll call it equity for it's DEI,
fine.
Right?
DEI, yes.
Yeah. But you're also treasurer.
Yes.
Huge job for any organization. So applaud you on that as well.
Happy to do it.
Yeah. And and being involved in the school districts right now, mm-hmm. they've been so controversial. Is that the good word? They've been. It's
is.
not. It's not an even, happy playing field that it used to be, and I think it's a reflection of everything. We've grown. We've gotten more complicated and misunderstood, and also understood, and maybe not to your liking. So I mean, it's a big deal, and I have heard. This is just my personal comment. I've heard different comments, and my personal belief is a lot of this should not even be in the political realm. It should just be on a personal level. But you talk about school districts, they have that fence of obligation to parents and children, and they have to be on both sides of that fence. And I find that an interesting dilemma, if you will.
Yeah.
So, but that's just a little sidebar.
And to address that real quickly, actually, a school district and the board's obligation is not to parents, is to the children, and it's to the actual institution of public education.
Okay.
So it is important to recognize that our first goal is to provide public education to all, and support the institution of public education. So it's not an obligation to teachers, it's not an obligation to parents. You're there to represent the community and ensure that education is provided to all, and that's where equity comes in.
Yeah. Well.
So that's a quick little aside.
A little sidebar. I'm sorry, I pulled it in. I made her say it.
No, it's good. It's all good.
So,
it's good conversations to have. It's important to have.
It's an important one. Yes, it very much is. So now going back to AAUW and our diversity committees and campaigns that I don't believe have been around that long, several years maybe, and so and I don't know if everyone knows this. I don't know that I've reviewed it, but we have a national level, we have a state level, and then we have our branches, which are local branches. So we're Auburn branch, if you will. So what can you tell us on the background before I get into your goals for this?
Sure. So diversity, equity, and inclusion is, again, it's kind of become a bit of almost a buzzword. It's not a word, it's an acronym, but that has become controversial. But the goal of it is, in many organizations, and you'll hear a lot of corporations have DEI as a goal, educational institutions, nonprofits, and the focus there is, we can just break it down, diversity. So is there a diversity within your organization? Do you represent the greater community?
Okay.
And, and just on that, just to bring it into Auburn, that is one thing I noticed when I was, on the school board. I also did Leadership Auburn. I looked around. I see the service organizations that do incredible work. There's so many wonderful community service organizations.
There really are.
However, I don't see the representation at that level of other groups.
Yeah.
And so there's a bit of a disconnect is the way I view that. And I think when you go into the greater community, especially when you get into the younger populations, there's greater diversity there. And when you go into our schools, you'll see that. So I think it's important that we recognize that and see what we can do with our service organizations to bring that diversity there.
That's an interesting point, Julann, because I always think of our community as rather level. I'll use that word for
homogeneous.
I love that word.
There you go.
And so it's a little harder to focus on some diversity when one doesn't see it as much, right?
Exactly.
But your point was well taken when you said we see it in the schools, in the younger group coming up. I think that's really true. Auburn has grown to include a lot more of that, different groups of people and so anyway, the definition sometimes for us old fogies gets a little muddled because we just don't see it, right? So an interesting point for our AAUW to, hey, let's look at this. Where's a gap need to be filled, or what can we do to encourage a little more of I don't even want to use diversity. I like inclusion. It's like including everybody, treating everybody the same, including the opportunities the same. And that's not to say, a percentage or we should do this with that many people. I'm not saying that. I just want it to be an even playing field for everybody. Is that?
Yeah. Well, that's when you start getting into the equity piece and the inclusion and that DEI. And diversity also, we want to make sure we realize, doesn't just mean the color of our skin,
Right.
or it's cultural, it's language, it's socioeconomic, it's gender equity. It's all of that, and sexual identity, which again, different sexual preferences. That's a different aspect. So it's just making sure that your group recognizes, maybe you don't have that within your group, but you recognize that exists, and you want to make sure that you are opening yourself up to that, to hearing those stories, to understanding. And so, because that's where, once you have understanding, you can start working towards goals that are better for everybody.
Wow.
So, and then equity, that piece is not necessarily treating everyone equally. It's more about making sure everyone has the same opportunities.
Right.
Because not everyone comes into this world, I'd say, with the same advantages. Let's put it, they're not necessarily disadvantages, but some people come into the world with more advantages already on their, if you were to do I'm an accountant, so you have a debit column, so maybe
that's the treasurer in her.
Yeah. So it's important to recognize that some people, doesn't matter the color of their skin, their socioeconomic, there are deficits out there, especially when it comes to education. So some people, some children, students, or just in life, need more supports in order to become a valuable or valued member of the society, and somebody who can contribute to our society and our community. Everybody has something to give to a community.
Sure.
And the more the more resources that you give people in order to bring them up, we're all better for it. So that's what equity is about. It's making sure that people have those resources available to them, that they're aware of it, that they are able to take advantage of it, and those supports.
Right.
So that's what equity is.
Awareness is a great word. I think last year when I talked to Daniela, we were talking quite a bit about just those definitions that you threw out, Julann, that one tends to forget. And I remember I didn't know I had scholarships available. I just didn't have that
Awareness.
at that time, the awareness. Yeah. So that is something our organization could definitely enhance and make possible. And that's cool. That's very cool. So do you know what, at the national or state level, what their goals are, other than, we just broadly did a great definition that brings us to a nice focus on that.
Yeah, I think the goals, it's hard to say, because I think every organization, because we are a national organization, and different regions have different personalities, so to speak. Let's put it that way. And so it's not going to be, you can't have a cookie cutter approach to all of this.
Right.
So every organization has a goal, and so and I was just a part of a national call last night for the equity officers. Some of them are called chairpersons, some are called, there's a variety out there. Some have been at it for years, 4-5 years in their organization, for bigger groups, smaller groups. We're all at different levels of where we are, and bringing this into, and it's really a change of mindset, I think, that we're looking at. But it is being aware of your community, who's in your community, and are we reaching out and learning from them, and obviously giving them the opportunity to learn from us, and hearing their stories, and making sure that there's representation. So that's really what it comes down to. So depending on where you are, there's certain areas where it is more focused on the Black community, or people of color. There's other areas where it's more the Asian community, that because they have large populations within their community. Latino, for Auburn, it really is the Latino community that is the the more prominent, if you want to, community that is represented here in the area. So there's that, and there's our LGBTQ community as well, which is definitely a very much on the radar for many people because of some of the, bring that back to the school boards,
Right.
you know, some of the actions that are being taken by, I would say, some extremists that are trying to, you know, basically take away the rights of our LGBTQ youth. And so those are the things that we need to be aware of, because when we are fighting for equity for women, it's important that we can't be silos anymore in this fight.
So, okay, this is a loaded question. I always do loaded questions for my poor guests. So how do you think our organization, what kind of programs, what kind of outreach situations would we like to, I'll put it that way,
Yeah.
would be your goals for, and I'll go back to our trivia because we sort of do know, people know us for that. Our trivia bee is to raise money for scholarships.
Yes.
So what kinds of programs or opportunities are on the radar for you
Sure.
as a goal for us?
Yeah, on the first goal I really came into this position with DEI was really to connect with, there's a group called the Latino Leadership Council in Auburn. I was aware of them because they do wonderful work in our schools with the families and students. And so I thought it would be important to learn from them, reach out to that group. And I have been able to connect some of their leaders within their organization with our leaders in scholarship committee and our tech track committee,
Okay.
with the goal of making sure that we are seeing representation in that area for Latino, Latinx teens and youth that are applying, that they know that they can, you know, tech track's a little different because it is a teacher recommendation.
Right.
But making sure that there is representation at that level and that these young ladies have the opportunity.
Okay.
And then when it comes to scholarship as well. And so what kind of barriers that we may not, on our side, are not aware of, that someone from the Latino Leadership Council very quickly, immediately, some of the questions they asked were, are you doing the outreach in Spanish? Do you need help doing outreach in Spanish? How basically helping us reach families, because there is sometimes a bit of a language barrier, cultural barriers that we
Right.
just aren't aware of. We think we're doing the right thing,
Right.
but they're just things that, because we are coming from a different perspective, that wouldn't even. So I think making those connections and finding out where there's common goals. And it turns out that the Latino Leadership Council this past year had decided that one of their bigger goals was to focus on higher education. They've been focused a lot on families and youth in the elementary schools
Right.
and high school, but they really want to focus on higher education also for many of their communities. So that seems like a great opportunity for us at AAUW and our scholarship committee to connect with them and see how can we help there.
Yeah. Like maybe possible workshops or a meeting that includes them. You know.
Once I made that introduction,
Yeah.
it's kind of,
Okay. Now.
it's not in my hands,
Yeah.
right?
You're right.
Because I'm not there to orchestrate it.
Right.
It's just more of let's make the introductions. Let's see how we can collaborate. And so I'm hoping that the collaboration will go, and I'm sure there'll be lessons learned, and growth, and hopefully successes with that.
Yeah. I just I'm such a exact person, I guess you'd say. I want a project. I want what can we do kind of thing. I'm not sure where that's going.
Well, no,
I'm
I
sorry,
understand that. It is, I think, one thing for me, it's hard to let go of the, like, part of me wanted to just say, oh, I will run the meetings and you guys are going to talk and I'm going to, but I realized at one point you have to just let it kind of take on a life of its own. Everybody knows what their goals are, and I think if we all have the same end goal in mind, they're going to map it out how it's going to work for for them.
Right.
So
right.
I think that's the important piece of that. So, so I've made the introductions, and we're just at the beginning of it. So, we may not see changes right away, but we may see, a great collaboration come out of this that really benefits.
I can already see that we will, because we have you.
Thank you.
I mean, your understanding and the way you describe things are very, very calming and informative, and I think those two factors are very important in this whole topic. I do.
Believe me, I take it out of my husband.
Well, don't we
He sees
all?
the other side of it.
Don't we all? Yeah. But I just think it's so important, and it's hard to get that first foot,
Yeah.
and not take control, like you said. Let it take its own form. I think that's grand. I think it's really grand. Do you have any other goals? You kind of started that ball with conversation with scholarship and that. Have you got any others?
Yeah, I think, we do have the meeting coming up on October 16th.
Yes, Monday.
Monday. That is Monday.
It is.
It's October. Mm-hmm. The guest speaker will be from the Latino Leadership Council, and I've got her written down. I don't want to get her name wrong. Julia Figueroa is her name. And
Pretty.
she is what they call a promotoria. And that is, we'll learn more about that program. But the promotoria is basically a community liaison. So she will be speaking, and that is at the Auburn Beach Library, the Beecher Room, at 5:30.
And that's this Monday, the 16th, is
The
it?
16th.
Coming up. I'm not sure if Phil will get this all together by then, but we'll put it in there. So, because it is important, and I hope that we get some public people coming. Yeah. All our meetings are not in exclusive meetings. We always welcome guests and people, and I think that'll be really, really kind of cool. So.
Yeah, and it kind of popped up on my radar this week when it dawned on me how quickly it's coming. So I do intend to invite others to join us and learn, because I have already been given the presentation they're going to give, and I'm so excited.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Excited.
So see, she had that in her back pocket. I'm so glad.
Yeah, and then just from my phone call last night, I got some wonderful ideas from other groups. Of course, that's the beauty of having these kind of
interneting things.
And
or it's not interneting. What's the
well,
word?
interneting.
That's not a right word. No. That's not the right word at all. But anyway.
Anyhow. So I did learn, and somebody locally out of the Sacramento branch does field trips. And so I did not know. Did you know there's a Sojourner Truth Museum in Sacramento?
I did think I might have known that, because her stamp came out, and I think I might have.
So they did a field trip there, and I thought, well, what a great idea. So, and other people had mentioned that they do field trips, and they've gone to the colleges and learned. So I think there'll be opportunity for us to do a little bit more in that area, and just invite. It's not a requirement by any means for people to attend, and invite and learn, and by doing that, maybe we'll bring more people into our group as well.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
That'd be nice. So, well, I look forward to Monday's meeting. That'll be great. There was something else I just passed my airways that I wanted to ask you about. Of course, I don't know.
It'll come back to you.
It will. It will.
Might be after we've done.
Yeah, might be. I don't know. It's an exciting topic, one that we're going to grow with. I hope. Do you think our local school boards are struggling a little bit with the controversy around that? Do we have a? Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to tiptoe and be politically correct and not offend. But I know that it can be, it can be confrontational sometimes, and I hope our school boards are strong. And that's an area of great concern to me, and I am definitely advocating for. I like to use the phrase, and maybe it's not appropriate to.
I long for the days when school board meetings were boring. And I don't mean boring in that we don't do real actual work and bring in reform where it's needed, but boring where we've gotten rid of what is just honestly politicized, overly politicized, unnecessarily politicized cultural issues that don't belong on the school board.
Yeah.
And it's always been a nonpartisan seat. I have sat on a school board with people that I didn't even know their party affiliation, and it didn't matter.
Right.
And it seems to have unfortunately just deteriorated there. And I long for the days where maybe we can get back to that and get actual, really just focus on education, making sure that all children have what they need to be successful citizens, and navigate life in a positive way. And mental health is a big part of that, and allowing children their dignity. And that, when we get to the LGBTQ thing, that is something very deeply personal. And it's something that is very vital to their human dignity. And I think we just have to really keep that in mind.
You put things so beautifully. It's difficult for older folks. I think, to even understand a lot of that.
Absolutely.
To be honest,
Absolutely.
And so it's hard to let go of that. But what struck me was a good pathway in life to give them the bones and the foundation to have good lives.
Yeah.
And so I think we can all do that, whether we understand or agree, disagree. That's important, I think.
Yeah.
So.
And one of my favorite phrases is, if we truly, truly believe that the youth are our future, we need to let them lead us there.
Oh.
So if we really do believe that they are our future, and we want a future, then we have to sometimes let go of a little bit and let them lead us there. And so I think a lot of them are trying, and it is difficult. You know, we stumble over saying the wrong thing, and
Right.
you know, but if it comes from a good place and you're trying to learn and understand, that's what matters.
Yeah. Okay, we're just about done. And I do, you do put things beautifully, never change. But you're right. I think if the intent is good, the intent is strong, then that's really all of us need to know. Absolutely. Now, there's going to be intent that we don't agree with, and that, but if it's put in a kind manner, I think, we just lost Dianne Feinstein, and regardless of whatever, she could talk to people, what they say, across the aisle, and we were raised in that environment, and it doesn't seem to be there. Anyway, I digress off the rails. I want to thank you immensely. I'll remind everyone we do have a meeting Monday the 16th at 5:30 at the Beecher Room, and we will continue this conversation. We do have a website, just like I think Sandra last time, instead of saying it all, just go to Auburn AAUW, and it should point you in the right direction of our website, where you can see this program, you can see other interests, you can see a way to join us. So we'd appreciate all that. Yeah. Julann, thank you.
Thank you.
What a doll. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, wait, can I say that? Yeah, I can.
You can say that.
Yeah, I can say that. We're going to say it. Anyway, go 49ers.
Oh, go 49ers.
Take care of each other. If nothing else, let's find the like-mindedness through football. I don't know. It's just mine.
Talk about leveling the playing field.
Exactly. But no, we're not going to do that. We're going to be way up here. Yeah. That's the Niners. Anyway, take care of each other. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Julann.
Thank you.